Okay, we are 6 lines from the top. Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. Ba mine Rabbi Avina mirav sheshet. Bat hanizonet min ha'achin. If the daughter is being fed by the brothers, meaning if the father dies and he leaves sons and daughters. Now we spoke about how the daughter doesn't inherit with the brothers, meaning everything that the father owns, nothing goes to her. However, she's young. How is she going to support herself? How is she going to be fed? Everything like that. So she gets paid as part of the ketubah, right? Part of the ketubah of her mother. She's going to be supported by the brothers. Who does her work, the work capability with whatever she's working for, who does that go to? Bimkom av kaimi. We know that normally it goes to the father, but now that the father is dead and she's being supported by the brothers, meaning the sons of the father, who does her maaseh yadea go to? Who does her work go to? Are the brothers now considered instead of the father? Mahatam maaseh yadea la'av, hachanami maaseh yadea la'achin. Do we say that the same way that normally would go to the father, so too over here would go to the brothers? Or dirma, or maybe we should say, lo dami le'av. It's not comparable to the father. Why not? Hatam midide midzana. Hacha la mididhu midzana. Normally, how does it work? She is being supported by who? She's being supported directly from the father. So therefore, it makes sense that her maaseh yadea, her work, should belong to the father. However, in this case, she's not being supported from the brothers. She's not being supported from her brothers or the father's son. Rather, we said that she's being supported what? As an extension of her mother's ketubah. So if she's being fed from the ketubah, it means it's not coming from the brother's money. So maybe the money should go to her. Yeah. Or maybe even after. Well, yeah. So from what it's saying over here is that maybe if it's even talking about maybe the wife was married before, right? The wife was married before. She had a daughter. Now she gets married, and as part of the ketubah, part of the wife's ketubah, right? Every wife, when she gets married, she has a ketubah. Part of the ketubah has a clause written inside of it that this man is going to be feeding her daughter, even if it's not necessarily his daughter per se. Okay, so now that's exactly what we're trying to find out. Does that mean, or who would the maaseh yadea, who would get the work of this girl? Would it be the father? But since the father is dead, it would go to the sons because they're the ones now technically supporting. Yeah, but at the end of the day, the money that's supporting her, who does it come from? Comes from them. So we would say the same way that they're the ones that are looking out for her and causing her to, giving her, feeding her. So maybe the same thing applies, and her work would go to them, or no, because now the fact that she's being fed is from the ketubah, is not from them. The ketubah belongs to the father still, and since the father is not around, so then they wouldn't get this money. No, it doesn't make a difference. Again, it's all what we're talking about right now is we're talking about the fact that she's being fed because of the ketubah. Okay. Sorry. So it says, Rashi says over here that it's talking about his own daughters that he has with her. Okay. Rashi says, Shekachu tnai ketubah bepelkin benan nukvin dihavyan lichi minai. Any girls that you're going to have from me, inun yehon yetvin beveti, they will be sitting in my house. Umidzanin umnichsayai, they're going to be fed from my property. Ad ditil korchun leguvlin, until they're going to get married. Okay. Now, Elmaleh, so he answered him back. tinituha. Okay, we learned it in a braita. Almana nizonet, sorry, minichse yitomim. And almana, a widow, gets fed from the property of the yitomim. Umaaseh yadeha shelahen. And the maaseh yadeha, and whatever she works, goes to them. So we see from here what? That the almana, she gets fed, and she has to give over everything she earns to the yitomim. So the same thing would apply to the daughter. Yeah, obviously that's part of the ketubah. That as long as she doesn't get remarried or she's tovea her ketubah, she has to be fed by whatever property is left. Even her children. Normally would be her children. Her sons, they're the ones that inherit. She doesn't inherit her husband. Okay, so once she, since they're supporting her, we see the Braita says the Maaseh Yadeha goes to her sons. So we would say the same thing would go to, the same thing should apply to, the same thing should apply to the girl.
What if
Yeah, once she decides to get married, so she gets the schum, the amount that's written in the ketubah, and that's it. Or even if she's tovea her ketubah, once she demands, give me the money that's written in the ketubah, she loses all rights to her to being fed from the ketubah anymore. So, but however, says the Gemara, midami almenato. Sorry, midami. Can you compare the two cases? Meaning, even though yes, this is the case by almana, but by a girl it's going to be different. Why? Almenato lo nichale behalvacha. With an almana, he's not interested in her gaining her own salary. You can say. Bito, however, his daughter nichale behalvacha. He's interested in her gaining as much as possible. Says the Gemara, Lememra, from this we can understand, Debito adifale me almenato. We can think that the girl is more important than the almana. Says the Gemara, Veha amar Rabbi Abba, amar Rabbi Yossi, asu almana etzel habbat, kibat etzel achin b'nechsin muatin. They made the almana to the daughter the same way the daughter is like the daughter is to the brothers when there's a little bit of nechasim. What does that mean? Ma habbat etzel achin, just like a daughter by her brothers, habbat nizonet. Veha achin yishalu ala ptachim. If there's not a lot of property, if there's not a lot of inheritance, what happens? Now, the ketubah, we have to feed the sons and the daughters, right? So what happens when there's not enough to feed everyone? So the Gemara says that you have to feed the daughter, and the sons have to go ask for tzedakah. Okay. However, that's when there's only sons and daughters. What happens if there's daughter and the almana? There's the girl and the almana. Af almana etzel abat, almana nizonet ve'abat tish'al ala ptachim. When there's only the almana and the girl, what happens? The almana gets her money right away, gets her mizonot, gets whatever she needs, support, and the bat, the daughter, is the one that has to go ask for tzedakah. So who do we see is better now? The almana. Based on what we just said before, the bat is better. The daughter is better. Why? Because we say that he's more interested. He lets the daughter earn more than he would allow his widow, his wife, his wife to earn. But over here we see exactly the opposite, that the almana is better than the girl. Says the Gemara, L'inyan ziluta, when it comes to disgrace, when it comes to something that's that's degrading, almenato adifale. The almana is better than the girl, meaning we prefer that the girl be embarrassed more than the almana. L'inyan halvacha, however, when it comes to earning, bito adifale, he has more preference for the daughter than for the almana. Mativ Rabbi Yosef, Maaseh Yadea umtziata, af al pi shelo gavta met ha'av harehin shelachi. We learned in the Mishnah, right? Towards the end of the Mishnah, ma'aseh yadea umtziata. Her earnings, or if she found something, afal pi shelo gavta, even though she didn't collect it yet, if the father dies, harehen shilachin, it still belongs to the brothers. Says the Gemara, ta'ama, the reason why it goes to the brothers, the bechaye ha'av, because it's in the life of the father, meaning when she was working, when the father was alive, she didn't collect. And then after the father dies, the money goes to the father. But if she was working after the father died, li'atzma, we see that it's going to belong to her. So what does that mean? That means what we were just saying right now, that we had a question. If she's being supported by the Yitomim, who does the money go to? Who does her earnings go to? Who does the daughter's earning go to? From here we have a clear proof. We can infer from the Mishnah that it goes to her herself. My love, says the Gemara, isn't it talking about binizonet, where she's still getting food, and yet we still see that the money goes to the girl herself? Says the Gemara, lo b'she'ena nizonet. We're talking about where she's not being fed, and that's the case where the money would go to her. Says the Gemara, wait a second. If we're talking about where she's not getting supported by her brothers, what are you coming to teach me? Obviously, that the money would belong to her. Why? Because she's not getting supported from the brothers. So why should her Maseh Adea go to the brothers? Afilu leman de amal, even according to the man de amal, according to the opinion that says, Yachor harav lomar la eved. A master can tell his eved kinani, Ase imi, you have to work for me. Ve'eni zancha, and I will not feed you. Hani mini be'eved kinani. This is for eved kinani. Deloktiv be, because it doesn't say by the eved kinani, imach, that he has to be with you. Aval eved ivri dichtiv be imach v'chay achicha imach lo kol sheken bito. So when a person has an eved ivri, he has to make sure to support the eved ivri, right? And everything that the eved ivri earns goes to him. However, if he says, you know what, I don't want to support you anymore. I don't want to have to give you to eat. So whatever the Eved Ivli is going to work is going to go for himself, right? So if this is for Eved Ivli, Kal Vachomer for his daughter, right? So meaning what? That if he's not supporting, or if the Tomim are not supporting the daughter, Kal Vachomer, and for sure that the money should go to her. So it can be that the Mishnah is talking about that they're not supporting. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabba bar Ula, lo nitzrecha ela le'adafa. We're talking about the leftovers. Let's say her daily support is going to be $50, okay, and she's earning $100 per day. So if she's earning $100 per day, the extra 50, does it go to the brothers or not? Amar Rabba, Gavra Rabba, ki Rav Yosef lo yada de'ika ha'adafa. What? Rav Yosef didn't know that there's a possibility of this ha'adafa, the leftover support. He could have said it himself. This is something so simple that if this is the answer, Rav Yosef would have said it himself. Rav Yosef wouldn't have asked such a question. And he asked, and because of this, he asked this question. Rav Yosef matnitin guf akasha. Rav Yosef's question is based on the Mishnah itself. What does that mean? Kashale. Dekatani maaseh yadeha umtziata afal pi shelo gavta mitziata miman gabia. Says maaseh yadeha in the Mishnah. In our Mishnah, it says maaseh yadeha umtziata, and her findings. Wait a second. What type of findings does she have to collect? If she found something, she found it, right? What does it mean she has to collect her findings? So he was troubled with this manner of the Mishnah. Who's she going to collect the findings from? Ela, love, rather must be hachikama. This is what it's talking about. Ma'aseyadeha kimtziata. That the ma'aseyadeha is going to be like her findings. What does that mean? Ma metziata bechaye ha'av la'av. The same way that when she finds something, it belongs to the father when the father is alive. le'achal mitat ha'av le'atzma. However, when the father dies, whatever she finds now belongs to her. Af ma'aseh yadeha nami. The same thing would apply to ma'aseh yadeha bechaye ha'av la'av. When it belongs to the father, ma'aseh yadeha bechaye ha'av. When she's alive and she works, it goes to the father. So this, and however, after the father dies, it's going to go to her. Meaning the same way, Rav Yosef had a question, or basically he was trying to understand when the Mishnah said Maaseh Yadea Umtziata in the Mishnah, right? What's going on here? How you said Mitziata? How is it possible that you have to collect a mitziyah? A mitziyah, something that you find, there's no collection involved, right? Once you find it, you keep it. So he's saying no. When it says that the collection, it's talking about collection, it means to put the Maaseh Yadeha together with the mitziyah, together with the finding. The same way that by finding, it only belongs to the father when the father is alive, but when the father is dead, whatever she finds belongs to her. The same thing would apply to her Maaseh Yadeha, that when the father is alive, the Maaseh Yadeha goes to the father, but when the father is dead, the Maaseh Yadeha would go to her. Shema Mina, says the Gemara, yes, you're right, this is a proof. Shema Mina, this is a proof. Itmar Nami, okay, we also said it as follows. Amalav Yehuda Amalav, but Hanizonet Minachin, a daughter that is fed by the brothers, Maaseh Yadea le'atzma. The Maaseh Yadea belongs to her. Amalav Kahana, Maitama. What's the reason for this? Dichtiv, because it says in the pasuk, Vitnachaltem otam livnechem achalechem. When it's talking about Eved Kenani, that you have to inherit them to your children afterwards. So it says Vitnachaltem otam. Otam is referring to who? The Eved Kenani. Livnechem velo benotechem. So it's talking about that the Yehusha, yes. V'tinachaltem otam livnechem she'en adam morish zechut. Otam livnechem velo benotechem livnechem, and not your daughters to your son. Meaning that the Eved Kenani gets inherited to your daughters, but not your daughters get inherited to your sons. Magid she'en adam morish zechut bito livno. From here we see that you can't give over to your children as an inheritance the zechut of your daughter, meaning the earnings of your daughter, to the children. Matkif Rabba ve'ema bepitui habat ve'knasot ve'chabalot hakatuv medaber. How do you know that when it says vitnachaltem otam, that we're talking about that the zechut of the daughters don't go to the sons? How do you know that this is talking about Maaseh Yadeha? Maybe this is talking about that only about the pitu, the knasot, chabalot, right? What we were learning yesterday, that if he seduces her, right, after the father is dead, we learned that the money is going to go to who? The money is going to go to her after the father is dead, right? No, when the father is dead, when the father is dead and it happened after the father is dead, then it goes to her. It only goes to the father, or possibly to the Yoshim, and that's what we were learning yesterday, possibly to the Yoshim when it happened before the daughter died, and we weren't able to collect it till after the father died. That's what we had the whole question. But if the whole thing happened after the father died, it goes to the girl herself. So maybe the pasuk of V'yitnachaltem otam, that the zechut of the daughter can't go to the children, can't go to her brothers, is only talking about these things. How do we know that it's referring to also the Maaseh Yadeha? V'chen Tana Rabbi Chanina. V'chen Tana Rabbi Chanina bepitui habat v'knasot v'chabalot hakatuv medaber. And Rabbi Chanina said exactly that this pasuk is talking about that the merit or the money of seducing, the knasot, the fine and the chabalot, and the fact that she now depreciates in value, this would stay by the daughter and wouldn't be transferred on. Says the Gemara, chabalot tzara de gufa ninhu, right? When she gets damaged, it's going to be considered tzar, right? It's going to be considered pain. It doesn't make sense. It wouldn't ever make sense to say that pain, that a person causes pain to one person, and then another person is going to get the money for that. Obviously, the money is going to go to who? Go to the daughter. If she was the one that got pain involved over here, right? If she was seduced, sorry, if she was seduced, because that was beratzon. If she was raped, then obviously the money would go to her. It wouldn't go to the thing. Okay. And even this, the tzar would go to her directly, right? Even if the father is alive. Even if the father is alive, the tzar goes to the girl, unless there's a tzar, there's a tzar which involves depreciation of her value, which in that case it wouldn't be considered under tzar, it would be considered under pugam, right? Let's say he not only did he do what he did, he also disfigured her. Okay, or he did something that caused a permanent damage. So now her value goes down, right? That's going to also be tzar. However, that tzar would not be considered under tzar. It would be considered under pagam, because now the father, when he wants to, you can say, marry off his daughter, he's going to have less of an opportunity to sell her off, because people are going to less want to marry. Amar Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina, shepatz'a bifaneha. Okay, that he, for example, he disfigured her face, and even though in that case it's not so much tzar, there's not so much involved, but again, because now she's going to be harder to find to be able to marry off. This way, now the money goes to the father as well. Amar Rabbi Zera, Amar Rav Matna, Amar Rav, ve'amri la Amar Rabbi Zera, Amar Rav Matna, Amar Rav. So the difference over here is Rav Zera and Rabbi Zera. What's the difference between the two? They're the same person, Rashi says. Rashi says Rav Zera and Rabbi Zera are the same person. However, one was when he was in Bavel. When he was in Bavel, he was called Rav Zera. When he went up to Eretz Yisrael and he got his smicha in Eretz Yisrael, so then he became Rabbi Zera. So over here, some say that it was when he was in Bavel he said it, and some say it was when he was in Eretz Yisrael that he said it. Amar Rav Matna, Amar Rav. Yeah. He probably did, but when he re-got his smicha in Eretz Yisrael, so now he came Rabbi. Yeah. Okay, or not necessarily higher, but it's also just referring to the Chachamim of Eretz Yisrael were always called Rabbi. Yeah, but Rashi says that they were the same. Rashi says, Hu Rabbi Zerahu. Okay? Hu Rabbi Zera, Hu Rav Zera. Ela bevavel mikame de sarik le'ara Yisrael. In Bavel he was called Rav Zera. Lekame de Rav Yochanan ve'en smicha bevavel. There's no smicha in Bavel. Okay, there wasn't a real smicha in Bavel. Okay, so they called him Rav Zera. Uvha shamata ika le'man amar mikame de semachu amur ve'ika de elman amar batal smacha. And there are some say that there are some that say that he did it before the smicha, and some that say that he did it after the smicha. It's better not to. It's morid the kavod of rabbanim bemet. The same, well, because again, there was a certain standard to be able to call a person rav. So even though nowadays also, technically we don't have real smicha nowadays, right? There's no real dayanim nowadays. The dayanim that we have today are not real dayanim that are able to enforce the law like the dayanim of halakha. Right. The same thing applies to the Rabbanim. The Rabbanim today, we don't have the original smicha. The original smicha is what? Is Rav Talmid, Rav Talmid, Rav Talmid, all the way to Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, at a certain point it got cut off. That's why we call the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo, right? What do we call him? We call him Maran. Why do we call him Maran? Matayim Rabbanan Nismechinu. There were 200 rabbis. They gave him the smicha. and there was a very big machloket whether or not his smicha was able to be considered a real smicha and a real continuation of the smicha or no. Meaning the smicha was over, and they wanted to be mechadesh. They wanted to re-bring the smicha in, and there was a lot of machloket regarding whether or not something like this could happen or not. Okay. So, however, we know that there's a standard to be able to be called rav, even if there's not a real smicha. But to call a regular person rav, this is not kavod, not kavod for the Rabbani. The same thing, it's not kavod for a person that's not there to be wearing what's called glima de Rabbanan. There's a special glima that this is a glima for Rabbanim Amitim. Like for example, you take the frock, right? You know the 3/4 jacket. So Chabad, they do it regardless of whatever it is. That's their minhag. However, if someone else were to just start walking around like it and pretending he's a rav, it's not proper. Okay. So he said, what did he say? Bat hanizonet minachin maaseh adeha leatzma. It goes to her. Dichtiv vitnachatem otam livnechem achalchem otam livnechem. The servants, meaning the slaves, go to your sons. Velo benotechem livnechem, but your daughters do not go to your sons. Magid she'en adam morish zechut bito livno. From here, to tell us that a person is not able to give over the zechut of his daughter, meaning his daughter's earnings, to his son. Amar le'avimi bar papi. Shakud amra. Shakud said it. Shakud manu. Who is Shakud? Shemuel. Shmuel is called Shakud. Why? Because the halacha is like Shmuel bedinim. So says the Gemara, Harav amra. But we just see that it was Rav that said it. Rabbi Zera said in the name of Rav Matna, in the name of Rav. Ema af Shakud amra. So rather you say, even Shakud, even Shmuel said it. Okay. Amar Mar bar Amemar le Rav Ashi, Hachi Amri Nardai, Halacha kevate de Rav Sheshet. The halacha is like Rav Sheshet, which is what? That the sons can inherit the zechut of the daughter. Rav Ashi Amar Hilcheta kevate de Rav, and what's the halacha? The halacha is like Rav. V'hilcheta, and halacha is kevate de Rav. Mishnah. Hamareset bito, a person who engages his daughter, Vigiosha, and this guy now divorced her. Ilsa, he once again engaged her, Vinita Almela, and she became an almana. Ktubata shelo, the ktuba belongs to him. Now, based on what the Mishnah is saying right now, the Mishnah is assuming, and it's not necessarily true, but the Mishnah is assuming that a girl gets a ketubah even just from the Eosin.
Only twice, right? I mean, twice. Only once.
What do you mean?
You got engaged, then
It's two different cases, one after another. Meaning the father engaged her to Reuven. Before they got married, he divorced her. Yeah, and then afterwards he engaged her to Shimon, and Shimon died before. So the Gemara is assuming, the Mishnah is right now is assuming that she gets a ketubah even from the Elusin, even from when she's engaged, and not only from when she's married. And yeah, of course there is. So that's no. So the ketubah is not necessarily has to be done the day of the marriage. It can be done even before. Okay. Of course. Again, the ketubah is what? No, that's so. You can't leave a blank in a document. The ketubah is it can be done even technically before, and in fact, some people had the minhag. There were some places that had the minhag, if I'm not mistaken, the Nahal Mitzrayim. They would do the ketubah a week before the wedding. They would sign the ketubah. They would do the ketubah, and then afterwards they would have the wedding whenever it was. Okay, so yes. So the question is he gonna be obligated to pay this ketubah if they didn't get married or not? Because again, he's not gonna be obligated to do all the things that are written in the ketubah until they're married, right? Mizonachi, ksutachi, bisipukachi, right? There are certain things that over there that obviously don't apply until after the marriage. So it's only gonna. So that's why it's maybe the whole ketubah, the fact that he has to pay and everything like that, is also gonna only be after the marriage, even though it was signed before. So the Mishnah says, the ketubah belongs to the father. He married her off and then she got divorced. And then he married her off a second time and she got widowed. Ketubata shela, the ketubah belongs to her. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, harishona shel av, the first ketubah belongs to the father. Amru lo, mishehisiya en la'aviha reshut ba. Once the father marries her off, that's it. The father doesn't have any more reshuta. So in this case, that means that even the first ketubah wouldn't belong to her. We're going to explain in the Gemara what's the reasoning with Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, Ta'ama, the reason why the Hesi'ah v'gersha, Hesi'ah v'nitarmela. Ava nitarmela trezimni. The reason why there's only two is because he married her off and she got divorced. He married her off and then she got widowed. But if she was widowed twice, meaning she married one guy, she got widowed. She married a second guy and she got widowed. In this case, she's no longer fit to marry anyone. And the Tana is just showing us that the halacha is like Rabbi. There's a machloket all around. How many times is considered a chazakah? Something established. Is 2 times considered a chazakah or 3 times considered a chazakah? So we know the halacha is nowadays that it normally takes 3 times to be considered chazakah. However, when it comes to something like this, where it's sakanat nefashot, where a girl marries a guy, the husband dies. She marries another guy, the husband dies. We say, wait a second, there's something not right with this woman. Maybe this woman has some sort of disease, some sort of something that causes all the people that are with her to die. So we do not allow her to marry again. Okay, we do not allow her to marry again. And this is like the opinion of Rabbi that says that even 2 times is a chazakah. Okay, so the Mishnah over here he was saying, the Gemara was just pointing as a side point that the Mishnah is establishing like Rabbi, which is going to be 2 times is a chazakah. Says the Gemara, it goes back the Gemara quotes the Gemara quotes the Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, harishona shel av. The first ketubah goes to the father. My tama de Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason of Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef, the Amrit Avayu, that they both say, Ho'il umishat erosin zacha bahen. Since when was the ketubah made? The ketubah was made by the erosin. The erosin, she's still in the reshut of the father. Therefore, the ketubah, since the first ketubah was given in the reshut of the father, so the first ketubah can go to the father. Afterwards, it's going to go to her. The second time, it's going to go to her because once she's married, it no longer goes to the father. Mativ Rabba. Rabba asks a question. Rabbi Yehuda says, Harishona shel av. ומודה רבי יהודה במארס ביתו כשהיא קטנה ובגרה ואחר כך נישאת, שאין לאביה רשות בה. That Rabbi Yehuda agrees that if he engaged her when she was a ketana, meaning that what? The money, the ketubah was made when she was a ketana, and she got married after when she was a bogeret. So even Rabbi Yehuda in this case agrees that the money is going to go to who? Is going to go to the girl. But based on what we just said, based on what we just said, since the erusin happened when she was a ketana, so even if she got married when she's a bogeret, the money should be going to her because she got engaged when she was a ketana. and she was in the reshut of the father. So this is a stira with Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. Yes, but we said that the money goes to the bogeret. The money goes to the girl when she becomes a bogeret.
She had the Ketubot before. She was no. Now she gets married. To the husband.
Yeah, but when did the ketubah take effect? When did the ketubah start? According to Rabbi Yehuda, this is only according to Rabbi Yehuda. When did the ketubah start? When was the ketubah signed? When she was still Birshut Aviyah. So if she was still in Birshut Aviyah, the father should get it according to him. But we just see something right now that contradicts this. So it says, Amai, why would the money go to the girl herself in the second case? Hachanami, let us say that since Mishat Erusin, when they were engaged, the father was Zochenet, that even after she becomes a Bogeret, it should still go to the father. Rather, you have to say that as follows. Rabba ve'Rav Yosef de Amrit Avayu, O'il u'birshuto nichtavin, umigba be'emat gabia. When is it being collected? It's being collected when it was, when it was written, she was still a ketana, and also when it's being collected, she's a ketana. Okay? Meaning, what? Again, so we just had a contradiction between the first and second case. So how does he answer? They say, you know what, this contradiction it's valid. Therefore, we have to reevaluate what's the reason in the first case the money goes to the father. So the Rabbi and Rav Yosef, they both say now that no, the reason why it goes to the father is not only because it was written when she was a ne'ara. Rather, the reason is because it was written and collected when she was a ne'ara or a ketana. So in this case, it would go to her. However, if she becomes a bogeret, then it would, because since the collection is when she's a bogeret, it would go to her, and she was married. Okay. So it says the Gemara, Amar Rav Huna, Mane Matayim mina erusin, v'tosefet min hanesuin. Okay, the money and matayim, whether she's going to be a betula or a beula, that's money is 100 or matayim is 200 mina erusin. It goes. It depends on when the erusin. V'tosefet, and anything that the husband adds on mina nisuin, it depends on after when she's married. V'Rav Yosef Amar echad ze ve'echad ze mina nisuin, both are dependent on when she's married. Says the Gemara, Rav Huna hachi, did Rav Huna say this? Why? V'ha'itma hotzi'a alav shte ketubot. A woman, after she gets divorced, she pulls out 2 ketubot. Achat mi shel, or even after the husband dies. Achat shel matayim, ve'achat shel 300. One is of 200 betula, ve'achat shel 300, and another one is of 300, which means that there's obviously a tosefet involved over here. Okay. ואמר רב הונא, באתה לגבות 200, גובה מזמן ראשון. 300 גובה מזמן שני. If she wants to collect 200, she collects from the date of the first ketubah. If she wants to collect 300, she collects from the date of the second ketubah. What's the difference between the two? The difference is because if it was the first date, so then she has, and in between the first and second date, the husband sold other properties, right? So now she has certain properties that are mortgaged to her from the first date, but these properties won't be mortgaged to her from the second date. So that means that she has a chance of collecting either the first one, matayim, based on the first date, or she can try to collect from the second date, and it's going to be 300, but then she won't have the same mortgage properties, and maybe she's going to lose out. Okay, sorry. But if what you're saying is true, that it goes with that if it's for the Erusin, the Mane Matayim goes based on the Kiddush, on the Erusin, and the Tosefet goes from the Erusin, from the Nisuin. So basically, let it be as follows: Tigbi Matayim Mizman Rishon. Let her collect 200 from the first date, Umea Mizman Sheni, but 100 from the second date. Okay, because she's coming with the second Ketubah of 300. So let that extra 100 be based on the second date, but the 200, the first 200, she can collect from the first date. Says the Gemara, but according to what you're just saying right now, Tigbi 500, let her collect 500. Says the Gemara, Kulam Yatayim Mizman Rishon, Tilat Me'a Mizman Sheni. Let her collect 200 from the first, then 300 from the second. Ela 500, my tama lo gavia. What's the reason why she can't collect 500? Since he's not writing in the second ketubah that he is adding on 300 mamash, amatayim, 300 on top of the 200. This is what he means to say. If you want to collect from the first zman, collect 200. If you want to collect from the second date, if from the second ketubah you want to collect, you can collect 300, meaning he's giving her a choice, choose either one that you want. Over here too, this is the reason why she's not collecting. I'm not adding on to that he's saying that he's not adding on the 100 to the 200. Okay, meaning that she wouldn't collect 200 from the first date and then 100 from the second date. Why not? Because he didn't write that it's a thing. So, Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.